Welcome to 1 Million Cups. We're going to go ahead and get started here. It's a couple minutes after 9. Hello, I am Peter Hauk. I'm the community manager with the Sioux Center for Entrepreneurship, and I'll be the MC for today's proceedings. For those of you who have never been to 1 Million Cups before, 1 Million Cups is a once-weekly startup event that is hosted in startup communities all across the country. It happens at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays, and it's just really an opportunity for communities to come together. And it was founded on the premise of what could happen if we all got together and had 1 million cups of coffee. What opportunities could happen, what businesses could be launched, and what jobs could be created. I actually got my job at the Sioux Center in part because I attended 1 Million Cups. So you never know what's going to happen at one of these events. We have a great couple of speakers today, actually. But before we get to that, has anyone never been to 1 Million Cups before? Whose first time is it? Okay. Do you want to step up to the mic here and introduce yourself?
Nice to meet everyone. This isn't my first time here, but last time I was tuning in virtually. So I'm Kayla Rogelberg. I am new to the SBA, U.S. Small Business Administration team here in Sioux Falls, and I'm also new to the Sioux Falls area as well. So last time it was great to meet a lot of you, and I'm excited to meet a lot of you guys today. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
We're happy to have you here, and we're happy to have you in the Sioux Center. You want to come up too?
Have a ladder that I can reach. Hey, I'm Jose Barrera. I own Siouxland Cleaning here in town, and then I own Siouxland Drywall. We work with commercial and residential post-construction cleanings, and as well as the drywall side. And I've been in Sioux Falls since I'd say 2002. And the reason why I came over is because I had a coffee with Matt here a couple months ago, and we were talking about it, 1 Million Cups, and then I started following, and it's a good opportunity for me to meet new people, new friends, and I know Travis here, and we were just talking about it, about catching up basically, and married with 2 kids, 1 girl. She's gonna be 2 in December, and then the boy, he's 10. So he's a 5th grader over at Cleveland, and I'm excited to be here. So.
All right. Well, we're excited to have you. So the next thing on our agenda is our calendar of events. So if anyone has an event or several events, Sadie, that are coming up that you'd like to talk about, feel free to step up to the mic, or if you're joining us on the stream, you can drop those in the comments, and we'll be sure to make sure people know about them.
Hello, everyone. Tomorrow from 1 to 5 is going to be the annual Innovation Expo event. It's a hybrid event, so you can attend in person at the Hilton Garden Inn or at the museum or online on Facebook. So to get, maybe it's not on Facebook, but if you're interested in a ticket, it's sdinnovationexpo.com. There's a bunch of coupon codes floating around. I know Matt sent me as like half off. But it's normally $25. So if $25 is too much for a ticket, you could get it for $12.50. But Innovation Expo is kind of the annual event for entrepreneurs in Sioux Falls, especially people starting high growth businesses. So if you're interested in attending that tomorrow, 1 to 5, that's sdinnovationexpo.com.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sadie Sweer, and I'm with Downtown Sioux Falls. And this weekend, let's get a little spooky. Start your Halloween celebrations early and bring the kids out. Like I said last week, get a little more mileage out of those Halloween costumes because DTSF is hosting a trick-or-treat this Sunday, not Friday or Saturday, this Sunday from starting at 1 p.m. going to 3 p.m. at various locations downtown. It's going to be like a trunk or treat setup. So you can bring your kids down. A lot of places will have things outside. So there's going to be different COVID-19 precautions in place, and DTSF highly encourages you to wear masks. but there will be different locations from Phillips Avenue to the Jones Building to even 8th and Railroad. So you can find a map at dtsf.com. Thank you.
Me again. Okay, a couple things for SBA updates and events. If you guys are interested in contracting with the government, SBA is partnering with Elevate Rapid City. Obviously, that's out in Rapid City, and they usually do hold in-person events, but this webinar series is obviously virtual. They're holding webinars every Thursday until November 5th. And we are partnering again with Elevate Rapid City and the GOED, Governor's Office of Economic Development, on those. For more information, you can go to elevaterapidcity.com and register for that. One other thing, just to save the date, we are 2 weeks away from, I know someone mentioned it, National Veterans Small Business Week. And that is from November 2nd to the 6th. And we'll just have a lot of events going on. We're partnering with some other small businesses. And have a lot of webinars, trainings, things like that. Again, that's November 2nd through the 6th, and you can find information on sba.gov/SD for that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Do you want to talk about horror stories?
Oh, yeah, I should probably do that. Thank you, Sadie. That's on October, it's the 27th, right, Matt? I think it's October 27th. Zeal and Startup Sioux Falls will be hosting a Startup Horror Stories event. And it's actually an after-hours event, so it's at 8:30 p.m. So put the kids to bed, grab a beverage, and come with your spookiest startup story. Or if you don't have a spooky startup story, feel free to just join us and listen in. We're having 2 separate contests. I know, it's big and exciting. The first contest is for the person with the best /spookiest virtual background / costume combination. And the second contest is for the person with the best story. And I should mention it's an all virtual event, so tune in. You can tune in at 8:30. Yeah, I think that's. Oh, and also we're hosting a morning mingle on October 30th, which is also going to have a costume contest component. So once again, come ready to be spooky. So with that, I think that's the end of our calendar of events section. So I think I'll introduce our first speaker for the day. Today is an exciting day because it is a hybrid event for multiple reasons. We have an in-person speaker, and then we have a virtual speaker joining us as well. So our first speaker will be Jaime Wood from the SBA. And she'll be here to answer some questions about COVID funding and to tell us a little bit about what's going on. So, Jaime, you have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jaime Wood. I'm the District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration's South Dakota District Office. And so our office is located right here in Sioux Falls at the Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship. Currently, our door is locked to the general public, but we will take appointments, but we are always available by email, phone, and you can catch us on our website, our Twitter feed. We're at SBA_South Dakota, all one word. And we have an e-newsletter, too, that you can subscribe to for events that are coming up, some of the events that Kayla mentioned earlier, but also just to keep active in what's going on in the environment and what's coming up ahead for small businesses. Our e-newsletter you can subscribe to at sba.gov/updates, and you put in your zip code, wherever your zip code is. If it's in South Dakota, you'll get our e-newsletter, so thank you very much. So we have a lot of things that have been going on in the last few months. Most people have with this COVID-19 disaster response effort. There's been a lot of positive things that have actually come out of this, innovative things for small business and for the economy. What we've been doing on our team, and then with our vast network of resource partners, the Small Business Development Center, the Women's Business Center, that's the SDCEO Women's Business Center, Veteran Business Outreach Center of the Dakotas, and then also SCORE. Those are our main partners that help with our training and counseling. But we've been really working to help businesses that have been in distress during COVID-19 because of economic reasons. So back in March late March, the president signed the CARES Act. Many of you have heard of that, maybe. Maybe some of you have even been recipients of the Paycheck Protection Program or the Emergency Injury Disaster Loans. So those programs have been going on for several months. The PPP loan program actually twilighted in early August, and we had about 25% of small businesses in South Dakota that actually leveraged that. That's about just over 23,500 businesses. The average loan in South Dakota was around $74,000. Those could go all the way up to 10 million. But we really have focused on, most recently, on businesses that are 50,000 or less. So 77% of these businesses, these small businesses that applied for PPP, actually had a loan that was 50,000 or less. And why is that important? There was an augmentation that came out in the past week for loans that are 50,000 or less, because part of that Paycheck Protection Program, there's a forgiveness for it that actually turns that loan essentially into similar to a grant, so that money can be forgiven if you followed all of the parameters of the loan. Those parameters meant it had to be used for payroll, and it also meant that about 60% had to be actually used for payroll minimally, but you had to use it for the other part for specific operational costs. You could use it for part of your mortgage interest or a lease for your business, and also some operational expenses that included keeping the lights on. So those, you had to keep track of them, you had to keep track of your payroll, and now that it's time for the forgiveness application to take place, you go through your lender that you got the PPP loan from. Those are all SBA network lenders. There's over 300 in South Dakota. Go back to the same lender that you got the loan from and start your application process. Now, there are some parameters for this. With that $50,000 or less loan, there's a separate application now. It's an easier form. We realized, so SBA and the Department of Treasury and all the way up through the White House realized that it was a little cumbersome for some small businesses to go through this application process because it was a hefty application. So they changed it to an easier form, but you do still have to turn in though, because we've been receiving a lot of questions about it, and for your other operational expenses. Once you do that, it goes to your lender. They have 60 days to make a decision. You also took out, and then they turn it into SBA, and SBA has 90 days. The good news is that we have been receiving reports back for about the last 3 weeks that actually from the PPP. The forgiveness piece is actually starting to take place. So the loans are starting to be forgiven for those who have applied, and that's good news. And what we're finding is most of the loans have been forgiven, like almost all of the loans. There's a little caveat in there that I want to talk to you about, though, because we've been receiving a lot of questions about it, and that has to do with the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan Advance, which is a grant. Now, if you took out PPP, but you also took out the EIDL grant, you received that. In the original CARES Act language, it says that that grant may be subtracted from the PPP forgiveness. So this week, we have heard that that actually is starting to take place. If you received a PPP loan for $40,000 and an advance for $10,000, when you go through your application process, you have to state that you actually got the EIDL grant. And SBA has records of all this. So if anyone's thinking of not, making sure that that's part of your application, then that's part of that 90-day process that SBA actually verifies everything. So we have the data, so please do include it if you received it. That could be subtracted from your PPP forgiveness. And what that means then is your loan, if you have a $40,000 one but a $10,000 advance, it would be deducted. So $30,000 could be forgiven and $10,000 would turn into a loan. That loan could go out as far as 5 years. It could be 2 years or 5 years, and that's something you have to work out with your lender. I know this sounds like a lot of details, but I wanted to clarify some of this because we're receiving a lot of questions right now. For small businesses who haven't taken advantage of the PPP or EIDL, maybe because you started your business after the cutoff, which was February 15th. So if you did not take one out, you may be asking, well, what are the resources that are still available for me? We have a lot. SBA really operates on 4 different pillars. 3 pillars are training and counseling, access to federal contracting. Like Kayla mentioned earlier, we have some training coming up for federal contracting. It's a wonderful way to grow your revenue. And everything from consulting for maybe IT to providing lawn care service to the federal government. So if you're in an industry that's within that boundary, and that's a pretty large industry boundary, maybe federal contracting is for you. And we also have the access to capital. So we spend a lot of time working with a network of lenders for different types of lending that are available for small businesses. You've heard the saying, it takes money to make money a lot of times, and that's what we do. We work with small business lenders to make sure that the capital is available either in micro lending or 7A or 504, which are some of your commercial loans. So if you're gonna buy a business that is brick and mortar and it's already turnkey, ready to go, we may have some lending that's available to you. So please do check with us. And then also disaster assistance, that's our last pillar. So we work in this and our services are free. We're a federal agency and we really just need your help in getting the word out about us. And so if you're thinking about starting a business or growing a business or maybe business succession, we hope that you'll reach out to us or one of our counselors, the SBDC or the Women's Business Center, Veteran Business Outreach Center or SCORE. And what am I missing, Kayla? Anything else? You've heard a little bit about our upcoming events. If there's a gap in the market or an interest area that you would like to know more about, or if you think we should offer different types of services, please let us know because we're trying to innovate as much as we do. We are very much in the virtual space offering a lot of trainings. Everything is free. I don't think I mentioned that yet. Since we're federal, it's paid for already by the taxes that you pay, so why not leverage some of these services? And I would love to open it up and make this a dialogue and hear of any questions. We have our newest SCORE counselor with us, Matt Paulson. So Matt has been helping a lot of small businesses already to navigate through their business decision cycle. So we really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So do we have any questions about what's going on, or if, and any from the audience too, please put them in the chat and we can answer those for you. Yes, sir.
I want to say thank you. My financial institution, my bank said, don't hold up on applying for forgiveness. The forms are complicated. Something's coming. Thank you for answering that there's a cutoff at that $50,000 mark with a shorter form. And I want to go back and have a conversation. Until then, it was limbo. Do we talk to you or just hold off and wait?
Yeah, so thank you. So if people in the audience didn't hear what that was in the virtual audience, so we have a small business who has a loan that's under $50,000 for Paycheck Protection Loan, and he's saying that he didn't know that there's a shorter form now that's available. But you brought up a good point too, that some of the lenders are actually recommending to their clients to hold off on the Paycheck Protection Program forgiveness application, and that is possible to do that. Here's some of the parameters to dig a little bit deeper into this for understanding. For the Paycheck Protection Program, originally it was on an 8-week. You had to spend it in 8 weeks. And then it was modified and they gave small businesses up to 24 weeks. You were supposed to go to your lender and tell them what option you wanted to choose. If you could get the payroll and the operational expenses all met within 8 weeks, or if you needed the longer term for 24 weeks. And that's tied to part of this forgiveness, whether you get 2 years to pay off any part that's not forgiven or 5 years. And it is a 1% interest loan. It's a pretty darn good deal. Even if all of it doesn't get forgiven, it's an incredibly good deal. Very few places will you find a 1% loan that you can pay off. And so the most that you can pay off within 2 to 5 years. So the most that people would have to pay back would be If they got the EIDL grant, they'd have to pay up to $10,000 back, unless you use that PPP loan in a way that it wasn't meant to be. If you went and purchased a vehicle, shame on you, really, for using that, because that's not the intent of the loan. So you would have to pay back the entire thing. And most people, though, have used it for its intent. So yeah, there's a shorter form. Ask your lender about it, and it's for $50,000 or less, and we're finding that the forgiveness cycle is taking place really quickly. Anything else? Well, we must be doing a great job if there's no answers. Either that or I look intimidating. I tried to, wear a cool color that was welcoming. All right. Well, thank you so much. You can find us at www.sba.gov/SD. You can give us a call, 605-330-4243. You could knock on our door. We actually will answer it. You can make an appointment. And follow us on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, please do consider getting on there, because that's how we communicate. We have autonomy over there. So thank you so much to the 1 Million Cups team, Zeal, and Startup Sioux Falls. And for all of you, I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. We appreciate it. Can we get a round of applause for Jamie? All right, Pinnacle team, are we ready to go with our virtual speaker? Okay. So I'll make an introduction here. Our next speaker is going to be joining us virtually on the screen. Oh, hey, look, it's me. She is Dr. Kristina Jackson, and she is with OmegaQuant. If you don't know OmegaQuant, it's one of 10 South Dakota companies and I think 5 Sioux Falls companies that landed on the Inc. 5000 list, which is a list of the 5,000 fastest growing companies in the country, I believe. Right, Matt? MarketBeat is also on it, so I wanted to make sure that I got that right. So I'll read a brief introduction of what OmegaQuant does. OmegaQuant is a CLIA certified lab that offers omega-3 index testing to researchers, clinicians, and the public, and sets the standard for fatty acid testing. OmegaQuant was the 2010 winner of the Giant Vision Award, which recognizes the best new business in South Dakota. I did some poking around on the OmegaQuant website before this, and it turns out omega-3 is the new cholesterol, and I'm sure that Dr. Jackson can attest to that. I looked up and it threw me off because you're right behind me, and then I see the back of my head. So without further ado, here we go.
Thank you so much. Hopefully all the technology is working out well. I'm talking to myself, so this is going to be interesting. I have my coffee, my 1 Million Cup coffee, and just thank you for accommodating me doing this virtually this week. Really appreciate that. So I'm here to talk about OmegaQuant, and OmegaQuant's not technically a startup. We're over 10 years old now, but we are still kind of small and scrappy. So I'm really excited to talk to this community in Sioux Falls. And we've already been introduced. OmegaQuant is a research and a CLIA certified clinical lab, and we specialize in measuring fatty acids. And fatty acids are just different kinds of fats. And so we're very interested in the human and human levels, blood levels of omega-3 fatty acids. Now, omega-3s, you may have heard of before. These are very hot in the media, and it's a very important nutrient. That's one of the most studied nutrients in the world. And so we really do focus on the omega-3s in the blood of all the fatty acids we could look at, hence the name OmegaQuant. So to back up, our company is, we are owned by 3 people right now. Myself, I'm the director of research. My name is Kristina. I'm a PhD in nutritional sciences and also a registered dietitian. So no business credentials there. My dad is one of the other owners, and he is the original founder of OmegaQuant. He is also a PhD in nutrition. And the third owner is Jason Pulrice, and he is also a scientist, but he also has his MBA. So thank goodness for that. And so between the three of us, we are the owners of OmegaQuant. OmegaQuant has about 20 people. 4 are remote and the rest are here in Sioux Falls. And we employ everyone from lab technicians to administrative assistants and manufacturing. And we kind of do a lot of things in a small amount with a small amount of people. So we are, what we do is we offer the omega-3 index test. That is really why OmegaQuant exists. And most of you probably haven't heard of the omega-3 index test. And so the omega-3 index is, like I've said, it's the amount of omega-3s that we can measure in your blood. So what we're really looking at is every cell in your body has a wall made of fat. And they're different kinds of fats. We call that fatty acids. And some can be saturated fats and some can be unsaturated. And you usually hear about this in terms of what we eat. So like butter is a saturated fat and oil is unsaturated. They have different properties. The same thing holds true in cells. And so with omega-3s, those make cells really flexible. So we've found that having more omega-3s in people's cells is a really good marker that their cells are healthy, and it's also connected to a lot of health outcomes. So the omega-3 index was invented by my dad and a colleague, Clemens von Schacke, as another risk factor for heart disease. So this is where the cholesterol comparison comes into play. In 2002, my dad, Bill Harris, and Dr. von Schacke were at an American Heart Association conference, heard some pretty incredible data presented on the relationship between people's blood levels of omega-3s and their risk for sudden cardiac death. And there was, they found that people with a blood level of over 8% of fatty acids as omega-3s, those people were at a much lower risk of having a heart attack. And so that sounds like a risk factor. So they decided, let's look into this. They wrote a paper proposing the omega-3 index to be a risk factor for heart disease that doctors should measure and optimize for their patients. And so in 2004, this paper was written and presented to the scientific community. But the way that we measure the omega-3 index is not a standard method in a lab in a hospital. It's something that has to be offered through a more specialized lab. And so in the United States, my dad started doing this kind of work through a lab called OmegaQuant. And then in Germany, where his colleague was, he also started to offer this test. And so essentially in 2006, so my dad had been, him and his colleague had been studying omega-3s for years, had this technology to be able to measure omega-3s, but it was only available to researchers essentially. And so in 2006, through just life, my dad decided to move, and our family decided to move from Kansas City to Sioux Falls, also to work at Sanford Research as well, because my grandma in a nursing home, moved up here to be with her. So that's how life intersects with business. In 2009, after working within Sanford Research, starting to do more omega-3 testing, he was able to take OmegaQuant, the lab, and make it independent of Sanford Research. And that was because of Zeal. So they were able to move into Zeal, and OmegaQuant grew there for 5 years and really got some great business advice and support. And Tom Morgan was actually our business advisor at the beginning, and he continues to be our advisor today. And so that's been an amazing help for OmegaQuant. So Zeal's done a lot of good for us. We stayed at Zeal for as long as possible. We were there for about 5 years and then needed to move on. And we found a place on West 12th Street in a kind of nondescript Cedar Plaza. Probably never heard of it, but probably driven by it. So we moved here, we got 1 suite, and now we've expanded to 4 suites here and continued to grow our company. Now, most of our customers are actually not in Sioux Falls, which is maybe why we as well known in the community. We are such a specialized lab that most of our business is throughout the country and then throughout the world. And because we are so specialized, and we also have a great research program here at OmegaQuant. We do testing for healthcare providers and individuals, and we also do testing for researchers. So we have an international reach as well as a national reach. So I want to talk a little bit more about this. We have a clinical side and a research side. The clinical side of our business, we measure the omega-3 index, and we offer it to individuals and providers. And because it has to come at our lab and be analyzed here, we have a special collection method where people can collect a blood sample at home and send us the sample. So this can be widely accessible. And our kit, this is our product. This is our at-home testing kit. So it's kind of like 23andMe for omega-3 status testing. Very simple. You just have a little baggie with filter paper, Band-Aid, and a lancet. You have to prick your finger, and then we just put a drop of blood on this little card here. And from this, we can measure the fats that are in this drop of blood here at the lab. Then when we get your when your results are ready, we send an email, and then we put your level here on a scale. This is your 8%, that is a desirable range. And then below that, you're in an undesirable range when it comes to your omega-3 status. So with that, it's pretty straightforward. When you have a low omega-3 index, we or the doctor advises your patient on how to increase your levels. And that's generally just through eating more fish or taking fish oil. And so that's our general product to our healthcare providers and individuals. And then with researchers, they just send us lots of different types of samples, and we analyze the fatty acids in them. So it's two very different parts of our business. So after 2009, when OmegaQuant moved to Zeal, 2010, we were able to get the Giant Vision Award in South Dakota, and that was also through some of the help through Zeal. I think Paul Lavelle helped us through that quite a bit. After we moved to Cedar Plaza in 2019, we started the succession plan where my dad was able to start handing off parts of the business to Jason and myself. And now we are officially OmegaQuant Analytics because of our 3-person ownership structure. And now he's moving on again to do a nonprofit where he can focus exclusively on doing omega-3 research, and OmegaQuant can focus more on doing research with and for universities, pharma companies, supplement companies, and servicing our healthcare providers. So just to wrap up, I guess the two things that I think about OmegaQuant that have given us success are having a focus and an expertise, but also having a scrappiness and a willingness to jump in and do things that are maybe outside our comfort zone. When it comes to making websites and doing sales, it's really just been we've just jumped in a lot of ways where we weren't necessarily professionals in that sense, but we're very much the experts in omega-3 status testing. So that's what I have for OmegaQuant, and I'm open to any questions.
All right, I'll ask you the first one here because I'm interested in it. As a scientist, you probably have a lot of experience with science, but a lot of times, you don't necessarily have experience with product design. I should probably talk to the camera here, even though you're behind me. But you probably don't have experience with product design or any of that. So can you talk a little bit about deciding to make this something that was available to order online, and what that process was like?
Yeah, that was kind of a process where we needed to expand our customer base, and decided like we're going to bypass doctors and go directly to people. And we have, interestingly, we are a wellness device, so we're able to go directly to people and they can measure their levels themselves. And so as far as what's interesting is the technology of measuring the fatty acids on the filter paper. That's been done in the research world for quite some time. And so it's just such an easy method for anyone to collect their sample at home. The sample stays stable for 4 weeks. So we had this technology that was already there and available. It was just putting the kits together and trial and error a little bit and listening to our customers. And when this Lancet didn't work well, we tried a different one. And it's really just been process and jumping in and trying things maybe before they're perfect, and being willing to always change and update. But it really has been a business run by scientists, which has its pros and cons. I think last year was our first year where we had a marketing person, and before that, Jason and I did a lot of we think this will work, we'll give it a try. So and from product design to the marketing to the sales, that side of the business has been more DIY. And so we're excited now that we have a salesperson, we have a marketing person. To see their expertise has been really nice.
Awesome. So something I should note to the audience here in person is that in order for her to hear your question, you have to be talking into a microphone. So if you could step up to the microphone if you have a question to ask Dr. Jackson, I'm sure she'd love to hear it.
Yes, Christine, it seemed like the focus had been on a level that would be lower than what should be normal. So one of the questions is what happens on the other side if you have too much omega-3 in the system? And then secondly, the second question is where has your market been most responsive for the products that you're offering?
Great question. So the first one, we typically look at people who don't have enough omega-3 in their cell membrane versus people who have too much. So just for some context, we're basically an 8% omega-3 index is mimicking a high fish diet. So in Japan, they average about a 9% without needing to supplement, just from eating a lot of fish. In America, we average about 4 or 5%. And that's because we don't have a high fish diet. People can get, we set a target range of about 8 to 12%. We think that's the sweet spot, the Goldilocks spot. Being above 12%, we don't have evidence that is actually detrimental. Clinical evidence, there's some theories, but we see people at 16%, 20% sometimes. The advent of very highly concentrated fish oils makes it possible for people to get that high. And so far, we haven't seen negative aspects of that. One thing people worry about with high omega-3 intake is excess bleeding, because one of its actions is really kind of like a blood thinner. And but we have written papers about this and found that while it does slow down the clotting process, letting the blood flow more easily, it doesn't slow it down so much where it's detrimental like a warfarin would. So when you look at severe bleeding outcomes, when you look at people getting operations and surgery, if they have high omega-3 levels, it doesn't increase their risk of bleeding there. So as far as what's too high of a level, we don't have a toxic level. We know that between being from 8 to 12%, you get the biggest bang for your buck. As far as where our customers are, in the US, we have doctors all over the country. Usually they're independent doctors, functional med, chiropractic, more interested in the nutritional status of people. But we also work with a very large executive health hospital in Texas. And so our healthcare providers are all over the country. And then individuals can order from anywhere in the world, and they do. And we also, because of this expanded interest, we have made some partnerships with labs, one in Stirling, Scotland, and one in Adelaide, Australia. So both of those labs actually run, and we have partnerships with them. And individuals in Europe can send their samples to Stirling, and individuals in Australia and anywhere in that region can send it to Adelaide. So that's been a great help because that's a lot of shipping to get it all back here. And then for research, that is really international as well. We've worked with hundreds of universities, anywhere from Harvard to University of California. We just have connections all over the world for the universities that we work with. And so being very, very specialized, we have to have this reach, because if we weren't able to reach all over the world, we wouldn't get enough business, essentially. So it's fun to have all that international connections.
All right, we have a question from Facebook. I think I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. It says, how would I get this test done for me? Can my doctor order this test for me?
Great question. Your doctor can, but unless you're going to kind of an independent practice doctor, they probably don't offer it. Although Sanford Health, we do have a connection with them, and they can order the test. You'll maybe need to ask them about that and request the omega-3 index test. You can also go to our website, OmegaQuant.com, and order it yourself. And our basic test is $50. And then our most complete test, which includes all the fatty acids we measure, is $100. So if I believe you can also, if you want to submit your own, submit to your insurance company, I think you can use HSA dollars for it. But that depends on your policy. We do not, everything we do is cash pay, essentially.
So with your process, taking something that normally is lab grade and making it into a real business, you have an entire process flow from customer acquisition through sample collection, through shipping, through receiving, break the sample down, testing, reporting, and invoicing the customer and getting payment. What is your current bottleneck in growing the business structure? And most excitingly, what if you now look back at the 15 years you've been doing this, was the bottleneck you went, wow, we let this chunk of the business hold us back, and in hindsight, that was a very easy thing for us to solve that really kept us arguably a year behind the revenue where we're at today?
Good questions. Right now, I'd say our main bottleneck is IT. And this is also the first year we've had our own full-time IT person. But so much of this at-home health testing space is IT. Most of the companies that are in this space are tech companies that coordinate with a lab. And we're a lab that's trying to become a tech company. So a lot of the issues a lot of the places of growth, and that's really just how do we make the experience easier and better for our customers and our patients, and how do we educate better? That's a lot of IT, and it's a lot of web design. And that's probably where we have the most bottleneck, where we have our systems in the lab. We're continually improving those, and those are at a pretty good place right now. But how do we better give a better product to our people? So I think that is our main bottleneck now. Where we had the other in the past, one of the main issues people were worried about was, is this an FDA approved test? Because it's kind of out of left field. So we went through the process of writing to the FDA, doing an application to be a medical device. And they worked with us in a very unique way, apparently, and decided that our test was so low risk that it would be considered a wellness device, like a scale that you would weigh yourself on. The only issue is we actually do need to draw blood, break the skin. And they said, even with that, because lancets are so widely used and have there's such a low level of risk with those, they still consider us a wellness device that does not need to be regulated by the FDA. We're able to just operate in the marketplace without having to go through their processes. So it was very unique response from FDA. And I think with all this at-home health testing, they are trying to figure out how to best work with these kind of companies. But that was having that FDA approval really opened doors to be more confident in our at-home testing to individuals, and also working with doctors.
Hello, my name is Ron Nelson. Enjoyed your presentation. It was insightful, and I was kind of surfing your website as I was watching your presentation. I think we're all convinced fish oil is good. In reading the website, eat more fish, take more fish oil. So we've answered the why. I was trying to get to the how. And that would be, I take fish oil, I believe in it. I think the last place I bought my fish oil was Menards. Not kidding. And then you go to Dr. Oz, late night infomercials or whatever, and they may say, whatever you're taking now for fish oil, throw it out, it's junk, ours is the best. What's the consumer to do? It's kind of hard to know, the how, okay, I believe in the why. What's the next step? How is the how? I was looking for recommendations on your website.
Yep.
Is there a difference between the quality of different supplements like the infomercials would have you believe?
That is a great question. And that's actually one of the main things that I like about our test is that it allows you basically to test whether or not this product's working, because it doesn't matter. You can have all these seals on your fish oil product that basically say this has been tested for purity and yada, yada, yada. But if it doesn't actually get into your body, it's not going to do anything. And that's what we're able to measure. Is this getting into your body? And are you getting enough where it's going to make a noticeable difference? So this is the thing that I deal with a lot, being the registered dietitian. For most people in the US, they say they're maybe taking a supplement. They're maybe not sure how much, probably not eating a whole lot of fish. So we're knowing what your blood level is for us is the main factor we need to know before we can recommend a dose. And so this is personalized nutrition, which is a different paradigm from the past where everyone needs 250 milligrams of this nutrient a day. That's kind of how our systems are set up now. We say, what's your blood level? And then we can tell you how much more omega-3 you need to get to that 8% and get to a therapeutic level where you actually do notice health changes and reduce risk. So quality and quantity of fish oil products. For us, actually, the quantity is potentially more powerful. So the dose of EPA and DHA specifically is what we look at. And in fish oil, in the capsule, it's not just those two fatty acids. Those are the main omega-3 fatty acids I'm talking about when I say omega-3s. But fish have more than that in them. So some of these fish oils, if it's 1,000 milligrams of fish oil, it might only have 300 milligrams of EPA and DHA. And so we have a calculator on our website, actually, where you can put your baseline omega-3 index in, you want to get to 8, and then we'll tell you the milligrams of EPA and DHA specifically that you would need to get there. So if you need to take 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, you don't need just one fish oil pill, you need 3 or 4 of that fish oil pill because the EPA and DHA is only 300 per pill. So this is really tough to explain. And so this is part of what I'm working on, is more guidance on our website to be able to show people how much they're actually getting in the supplement they're taking, and then how to potentially search for supplements that are higher concentrated. Usually that means they're more expensive. So there's always this trade-off. The other issue of quality is there's potentially a quality issue. We've written a research paper showing that some different types of the different forms of omega-3 of EPA and DHA affect how well they're absorbed. However, the main, if you take your omega-3s with food, and specifically with fat, because they are fats, your body better absorbs all the fat, and then the type of omega-3 doesn't matter as much. So that's one thing we try and make sure we tell everybody is, if you are taking an omega-3 supplement, make sure you take it with a meal. If you're eating fish, it's a whole food, your body absorbs that really well already. And so as far as at OmegaQuant, we can't really recommend specific brands because we work with quite a few brands who are all doing their own research. And we're a testing company, so we're trying to keep that wall between us, the testing company, and the product that affects it. But for me as a registered dietitian, it makes it very difficult for me to easily advise people on what to look for, because the marketplace is so confusing, in my opinion. You have to be very good at reading labels. The other trick with the label is you have to know what the serving size is. So it might be the label says you have 500 milligrams of EPA and 500 of DHA, but that you take 2 pills to get there. So you have to know that too. So you could end up needing to take 10 pills of a certain type and to just hit the recommendations that we're making. And so on our website, we have this calculator that helps you know what dose you should aim for. We also have a supplement calculator that will let you enter in what supplement you have and tell you how many pills you would need to hit that dose. But again, with the IT, I want these to be brought together and more user-friendly, because right now they're a little bit clunky. But it's to get to therapeutic doses and you're using nutritional supplements, you really do need to know what you're doing, and usually take a higher dose than you would probably expect, certainly a higher dose than what is on the package, what is recommended. There are also drug omega-3s. So they have highly, highly concentrated EPA and DHA, and have made them into drugs because they are that effective for lowering heart disease risk. So you could go get that from your doctor as well.
All right, so we are cutting it close on time here, so I'm going to go ahead and ask the last question that we ask all of our presenters here at 1 Million Cups, and that is, what can we as the 1 Million Cups community do to help you and your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we haven't been as involved in 1 Million Cups as I would like to be, so I'm excited to be more involved on our end in the future. But really, it's just running a small business in Sioux Falls, finding the right people. Like I said, having this connection to Tom Morgan through Zeal was incredibly important for us, as we're mostly not business people. So just the advice, there's a large biotech community here, so getting to know more biotech people to see if we can collaborate, and also talk about where we're finding good scientists. And we're also looking to expand our testing options. And so we're going to be looking for more different kinds of scientists and different kinds of people that are science adjacent, who can communicate science well. So just understanding that community here in Sioux Falls, I think will really help us out.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jackson, for presenting. This has been a really interesting presentation, and we appreciate you taking the time to come here and talk to our community. We do try and get everybody out of here by 10, and I have 1 minute in order to accomplish that goal. So I'm going to go ahead and thank our sponsors real quick. First of all, I want to thank First National Bank in Sioux Falls for being one of our fiscal sponsors, as well as the Museum of Visual Materials for allowing us to use the space here today, the Zeal Center for Entrepreneurship, which is where I work, Market Beat, and Pinnacle Productions for being our production team and adding the sizzle that you all see today on the virtual presentation. So with that, have a good week, everybody. Thank you very much.